What is going on, guys? My name is Tubby, and thank you for joining me here as we're going to talk about some big stuff going on in the WWE right now. You got a brand new faction, Absolution with Paige. Paige back in the WWE finally. We're going to talk about that. Not only are we going to talk about Paige back in the WWE, we're going to talk about the whole thing with Asuka. We're going to talk about Elias Sampson, Jason Jordan, and more in this video. So if you want to skip ahead, there may be links down below where you guys can skip ahead to the part that you're interested in hearing me talk about, or maybe your specific theory, or your ideas, or where you want to see a storyline go. But let's dive right into it. So for Monday Night Raw, I want to go over a couple of the bigger storylines, and I'll let the rest kind of play out. So the first thing that I want to make light of, or not necessarily make light of, but talk about, is clearly the not even 3-second match between Dana Brooke and Asuka. Now, look what happened to Emma. Emma got a good showing against her, and Emma's no longer with the company. I don't see Dana Brooke getting to that point. I don't think these squash matches are anything more than teasing something else. I actually really like the fact that Dana Brooke the next week got a package trying to overcome what happened the week before, how she studied the tapes. That's the kind of stuff that I like, and unfortunately, Michael Cole messed it up. It was not the Asuka lock. It was an armbar. I mean, how many years, Michael Cole, did you see Alberto Del Rio do the cross armbar, and you never once associated that with the Asuka lock? But apparently, that's a thing. So you had, after the match, you had Paige come out. Now, Paige has already went after, Bayley. They've attacked Sasha Banks, Mickie James. They've pretty much gone after everybody. They try to get Sasha Banks to join as Paige is back in the WWE, the anti-diva, the person that pretty much retired the term diva, possibly setting up plans for Asuka versus Paige, and I would be all for that. Now, I know there's a lot of people speculating that right now Raw and SmackDown are being lazy because they got the same two teams over there. You got not Mickie, I was going to say Mickie James. You got not Trish Stratus, Mandy Rose, who, Mandy Rose is looking fantastic, by the way. I just want to say this. I want to be up front and clear. I think Mandy Rose has amazing potential. Like, I see vintage Trish Stratus in Mandy Rose. I see, vintage women wrestlers in Mandy Rose. And her finisher is fantastic. Now, I know that makes some people really nervous with how they kind of get held up. But to me, I think it's great. Now, you have this storyline being teased with Asuka and Paige. Like, yo, Paige, Asuka. Is she joining? Are they fighting? What's going on? They surrounded the ring. They pushed up, and then Paige kind of backed off. Asuka got to walk away, and we don't know what's happening. And I think this is an intriguing thing, and I think this is what WWE needs to do for storylines. Right? Because Raw in other matches tied back into everything. You had Kane and, Braun Strowman go at it at TLC. Then you had them slowly integrate. But then you had Braun kind of focusing on other stuff. You had Kane going after Finn Balor with that whole not over thing. And we're going to talk about that because that's one of the greatest mix of psychology in the 2017 that we've ever seen before, is everything that's going on right now within the WWE. It feels like, at least now, we have better written television with more longer-term stories in play. Now, that's probably because we're in WrestleMania season, but, look at the way stuff has been coming back in week to week. I mean, honestly, especially like with the Shield versus the Bar, the way they've tied stuff up, Miz versus Roman, especially with Miz going to film The Marine 6 with Shawn Michaels, the way they integrated that in to allow Roman to win. Elias coming out with the entourage looking fantastic. There's a lot of stuff Raw is doing good. And there's some stuff that Raw is maybe not doing as well, and I think that's one of the things that people, brought up, and let's talk about that really quick, is obviously the Jason Jordan angle. A lot of people, early, maybe they aren't getting behind it yet. They want to see something more out of him, but personally, Jason Jordan is a star. He eventually will get there. I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know if the storyline is going to bury him or maroon him. I still think it's part of a long-term plan where Triple H try to get Kurt Angle out of there. I don't know, kind of like waste everybody's time with this Kurt Angle son storyline. I don't know. You can go back, like, Kurt, look at you living in your glory days, and show shots of TLC where he's smiling. He's giving his kid opportunities, and Triple H takes him away. Maybe they do something like that. What's best for business? So as you jump around and you think of everything that happened on Monday Night Raw and the way stuff tied back in, especially with Braun, and then you had Samoa Joe and Roman Reigns recreate that rivalry. And by the way, this keeps going up and down. This is the microphone. So you had this Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe rivalry get reignited, except now it's for the title. And Samoa's looking like this destroyer as of late, while Braun Strowman is this beast. You are building up a lot of great talent right now in the WWE, and you're doing it in a great way. You are integrating people from week in to week out, where you're not necessarily putting them up in one match, they win or lose, and they go on to the next week. We're seeing storylines intertwine, where we see Kane go after Finn, and then afterwards you see Braun come back out, and then you see Kane be kind of scared, and that whole thing is amazing. I want to get this over to the people that are watching my videos now. I do not look at Kane as a 50-year-old guy who shouldn't be in the WWE. Kane's character serves a purpose. Kane does it almost better than anyone else. I'm not going to dispute that. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to, sit here and try to argue about that. Yes, there are a lot of people in WWE that should be getting these opportunities, but you need established superstars, and Kane helps do that. The visuals, the cages, the casual fans remember that stuff, I think, a little bit more. I showed a couple casual fans the Braun Strowman throwing him out of the steel cage thing. That was sweet. The through the ring, that's the kind of stuff that makes people pop. The super technical matches that the hardcore wrestling fans like, that I showed my friends, they weren't really as into. But you show them something that had some psychology, or you showed them some kind of like stuff that you'd see on TV, and they were able to get into it more. And that's the kind of stuff that allows you to do that. Now, overall in the show, you had Seth Rollins versus Cesaro, which was a good match. The previous week, you had Sheamus versus Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose was not at Raw because of his honeymoon. Side note, that's fine. If Renee Young had been on TV, I would have died laughing. Like, yo, Dean Ambrose, he's gone on his honeymoon. But the person he married, yeah, she's working. That would have been like the biggest break in kayfabe since we found out wrestling was fake. But there was a lot of centered on the big storylines. The Jason Jordan storyline. You had a lot focused on the Braun Strowman storyline. You had a lot focused on Roman Reigns. You had Elias stepping in, and they just did a good job, I thought, because I went back and I've been watching old Raws and old pay-per-views. And when you go back and watch old Raws and old pay-per-views, things kind of intertwine. Like, you may have random matches some week, but at least somewhat built towards the next thing. And WWE, at least the past month, and I don't want to give them too much credit here, because you may not be enjoying the show personally, but for me, at least the big storylines, the way Asuka kind of blends in and she's not just going out there and always having squash matches. Sometimes she is. You kind of get her in mixed tag matches the way they did at SummerSlam, make her look good. Braun is looking like a beast. The way they're building Samoa Joe is looking like a beast. It really doesn't hurt Titus or Apollo at all. And then you had Elias almost look very good against Roman Reigns and get a close call there. And Roman can win. Roman doesn't have to lose the belt. I think it's great that Elias got that showcase. And Elias is getting pretty over. I'm not going to lie. I think the fans are really starting to like Elias because he's more than just a wrestler. And like I said, I love wrestlers. I love the guys that are pretty much just in-ring wrestlers, but having some sort of a gimmick to fall back on, that's what people kind of look for. You look to play a guitar. I know some people speculate that my man's guitar playing isn't the crispiest, but hey, you don't want to get too crazy. But I think the WWE right now is doing something right with Elias. The fact that they paired him with the Entourage is great. In my personal opinion. And not only that, but then you continued on later on in the night where the six-woman match that was supposed to happen, they basically took them all out. So in a way, some people have speculated, like I did earlier on in the video, that we could see Asuka versus Paige. Maybe there's a very real possibility that Asuka's using all three of them. Maybe Paige realizes she can't beat Asuka, and she's taking out all the competition for Asuka. Like, that would be pretty crazy. Like, there's a lot of different ways WWE can go right now. Then, of course, you've had what a lot of people have been waiting for. Now, if you didn't watch TNA or Impact or GFW or whatever it was called at the time, for those that don't know, Matt Hardy had a broken character, and it was a very good character. It kind of took you to a new level with him and Brother Nero, Vanguard, his stepfather, father-in-law, King Maxwell. It seamlessly worked in TNA. Now, I said when they came to WWE wanted the nostalgia of the Hardy Boys. I mean, that's where their money is. The Hardy Boys, not broken Matt Hardy. And I had said that repeatedly. But eventually, that character, if you settled the lawsuit, you could bring him in to, give a new side to Matt Hardy. And especially if they ever end up buying the TNA library, you now have Bobby Roode, Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle. You have all this footage, Sting. You have all these guys that went over to TNA, and you can add it to the network, which would be huge. And you want to keep that in mind. So you had Matt Hardy lose to Bray Wyatt, which, by the way, Bray Wyatt's promo, I was like, he's like, you're all dead. I'm like, oh, okay. That's the thing. We're apparently all dead. Not that I'm against it or anything, but you had him delete. delete, delete. So maybe this is the turn. You know, with Brother Nero out, Jeff Hardy out with injury, maybe this is his chance. And we'll have to wait and see. Now, other stuff that happened in the show, obviously, you had the matches with Jason Jordan, Elias, and Roman Reigns. But the end of the match, obviously, was Kane versus Finn. Kane went after Finn, but then he got his comeuppance with Braun Strowman coming out and pretty much destroying him. And this is the thing that I want to send a message to people. And this is kind of what I want to finish on. The best piece of making the best moment possible, a la Daniel Bryan, is Vince McMahon telling you you do not want this person as champion. Now, I want to say this I want to step this in a way that, yeah, Vince might just not see somebody in the right eyes, and that person may not get over and may end up in catering, right? But if he sees something in somebody, like Kevin Owens, everybody said something about KO and KO's own words. He's had matches where Vince just didn't like it. But now he's on this storyline where he headbutted Vince. He's fighting his son. He's on to bigger and better things. He's not your stereotypical guy. And you have Finn, who looks great, was going to be the Universal Champion before his injury at SummerSlam last year. And you have him now, basically, he's being told he's losing in squash matches. He's doing the over thing on Twitter. And I think they're trying to replicate Daniel Bryan from 2013, 2014, and we're going to see people get behind Finn. I would hope for the Bullet Club, the Baylor Club. I would hope for some sort of a faction invasion where he just goes roughshod. But that's what Vince McMahon and WWE can do in 2017. They can use people, just book him kind of crappy and then tell him it's not over. And then just fill the hardcore fans with, yeah, that guy's not going to go over. So then the casual fans, they don't like this guy. So when he finally does win or does something big, it means more. And that sounds very simple, but if you go back and watch old pay-per-views from, the 80s, the 90s, some of the simplest payoffs that had the biggest reaction were just simply booked stuff that, had a great story and build-up. And Finn is in that position right now where I think he can do that. He can be that guy. He can just casually joke, because even when he was injured, the very next day he had the smile of the, in his pose with his mom. That's what Finn can do. So he can just say, not over. And get the fans to push him, because WWE can make Finn the thing, right? They could push him, but if the fans create that swell, no. Every night that Raw or SmackDown's on, 10, 15, 20,000 people are talking about Finn, and then that starts to spread virally, kind of like, the Daniel Bryan chance at events. If they could figure out something that Finn could go viral with in the mainstream, they could be on to something bigger and better. Maybe the club. They could do something down the line with Cody Rhodes and their club versus the real club. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. There's just so much going on right now in WWE that I got to give props. So my review for Raw, I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars for the simple fact that it tied up storylines. It kept things progressing to the next week. And this week's Raw actually didn't feel like the worst Raw ever. It seemed like everything that happened was happening for a reason. It was accomplishing something. Whether it was what you wanted or didn't want, you have to, I think, in my opinion, give WWE credit. So I want to know your guys' thoughts and opinions on Monday Night Raw for November 27th, 2017. Let me know in the comment section below. Until next time, AJ thank you so much for watching. Paige, glad to have you back. Jason Jordan, hopefully you figured it out. And Finn Balor, too sweet me.